Times now is, of course, reporting from the Sangetsar Lake, which is almost 3,700 meters above sea level. The lake, which is located on the way from Tawang to Bumla Pass, wherein the lake is just a few kilometers from China. Now, the Indian flag in the region proves India's might and dominance in the region.
Well, India continues to maintain a strong grip on the post in the region, coming across as a message clearly being understood by China in the recent clashes that have been reported and the denial mode that China continues to remain.
The Indian flag at the Sangetsar Lake is a clear sign of how India has been dominant on the line of control. We are few meters away from the Sangetsar Lake, and as you can see on the top of the Sangetsar Lake are these mountain peaks which demarcate the line of control in between India and China. This is the particular line which moved towards the line of actual control, and India has been very much dominant on their positions over the period of time. But that's a point which the Chinese have also understood. They know that the construction of the road and the demarcated line which is through these mountain peaks can be brought under controversy. That's why they have been engaging in this kind of face-off which has happened in Tawang sector. Reporting from the Tawang sector, we would show you that these are the mountain peaks which are on the straight mountains. It's a very inhuman for any forces to travel across that. This location, it's not permissible for any kind of civilian move, but the fact of the matter is that our forces have been standing here giving a tough challenge to the Chinese PLA.
Well, Times now has been reporting at 13,000 feet above the sea level, but the Indian Army has adequate forces deployed across Arunachal Pradesh to deal with any sort of a situation. However, in this inclement weather that makes the region even movement as the army is concerned, but the braves continue to fight the tough weather to keep their motherland safe.
Times network has reached 13,000 feet above the sea level, and as you can see, the weather is changing, and this snow which has been converted into ice is certainly been there for almost 15 days. But the big question is that why is it so that the lobby is so much keen on questioning the credibility and the effort which have been put in by our forces. Walking in the extreme weather is certainly difficult for the forces. But the fact remains that the Raksha Mantri himself has come out and stated, given a statement before the parliament, that our forces has been on high alert, and any kind of possible movement or any kind of engagement which is coming out from the Chinese PLA will be countered then and there. This is not the India which is of 1962. This is the India of 2022. The fact remains that along in this Tawang region, which is of more than 8,000 kilometers of stretch of the line of actual control, the Indian army has been on a dominant position. And as the weather is changing, suddenly it is getting more and more extreme for the armed forces to guard it. But while walking and talking to the armed personnel here, the morale is high. They know that they have taken the revenge of the Galwan incident in Tawang sector, and once again across the line of actual control in Tawang, they will be praised here so that any kind of possible engagement which is being attempted by the Chinese to have some sort of mileage over the international fraternity can be countered then and there.
Now, the army has constructed new bunkers in Tawang sector to counter any attempt from the Chinese to encroach Indian land. In certain areas where the deployment was thin, steps were taken to strengthen it. Times now brings you these ground reports from inside one of the such bunkers, which is just a few kilometers away from the LAC.
We are reporting from few miles away from the line of actual control, where the Indian forces are giving a tough challenge to the Chinese PLA. You can see the construction. These are the new bunkers which have been constructed. The cemented area is certainly something new which is establishing. But looking at the weather condition which is changing, it is very important to maintain the post on the ground, looking at the Chinese gun once again attempt to enter the area. As you can see, the snowfall has already started few weeks back, and in this sector of Tawang, certainly which has been a very strategic thing for the armed forces, they have been giving a tough challenge to the Chinese PLA. These bunkers are very important for any kind of extreme weather situation, because these are being used by the armed forces here in India to guard their location, which is an important factor in this.
तवांग सेक्टर में भारतीय सेना की तैयारी पुख्ता है और यहां पर सिर्फ LAC के आसपास ही नहीं, बहुत से इलाकों में अलग अलग जगह पर बंकर्स बनाए गए हैं और कुछ पुराने बंकर्स यहां पर हैं क्योंकि चीन और भारत की ये तनातनी आज की नहीं है, दशकों पुरानी है। आप देखिए इस तरह के बंकर्स हैं जो आगे LAC पर भी बनाए गए हैं। अगर हम इन बंकर्स की बात करें तो ये मजबूत हैं, पत्थरों से बनाए हुए बंकर हैं और अगर युद्ध होता है तो कैसे इन बंकरों में घुसकर अपने आप को बचाया भी जा सकता है और दुश्मन पर हावी भी हुआ जा सकता है। आप ये देखिए, ये पत्थर के अंडरग्राउंड बंकर्स हैं जो LAC के आसपास बनाए गए हैं। कुछ बंकर इसमें से पुराने हैं, कुछ नए तैयार किए गए हैं और अब लेटेस्ट तकनीक के साथ कई ऐसे आधुनिक साजो सामान LAC के पास भारतीय सेना ने डिप्लॉय किए हैं जिसके बारे में शायद चीन सोच भी नहीं सकता।
While additional troops of the Indian Army have also been deployed at the Bamla Pass along the LAC, as the reports emerged that the Chinese troops are also building up on the other side of the border as well, where Times Now has reached ground zero and gets you the insights from the said area.
We are at the Bumla sector, which is very close to the Yangsai sector, and there was a viral video which was suggesting that the skirmish which was shown on in between the forces was of this location. As you can see, the snowfall has already started up since 1 week, and this is the ground situation where in between all these green grasses, these snow are there. We are certainly not going to show you the strategic location, but in this location, which is in the sector of Bumla, you can see the snowfall which has happened. This is one of the extreme sector of this area where our forces have been defending our post, but time and again the Chinese from the other side have been attempting to come here. That is the strategy which they have been opting. But it's a matter of fact the Chinese also need to understand that in this location, certainly this is not the India which is of 1962. This is India of 2022. The weather is certainly changing, and all these locations are also being guarded properly by our armed forces.
Times Now has now reached closest to the India-China border. We are close by 12 kilometers in this Bumla region. And in Tawang sector, the Indian Army is on a high alert. The troops have been activated and reinforcements have been enhanced, especially along the regions where the friction points are there and the clashes took place on 9th of December. You can see this is the road that moves ahead towards Bumla, and Bumla is a point where India and China's borders meet, and a number of times the commanders also meet. They hold meetings at Bumla, and you see the altitude around here is more than 15,000 feet. The weather conditions are extreme, and right now while we are speaking, the extreme weather conditions are there and the temperature has fallen down to -4 degrees, and this goes up to -20 degrees during the night time. You can also see snow on the peaks of these mountains. You see that there is oxygen content which is limited, and in such weather condition the Indian Army soldiers are standing tall, standing high, defeating the enemy, defending the borders with might and prowess. You see the army convoys out here that show that the Indian Army is on a high alert in this region. The movements are getting quick, and we can also see a number of movement of our troops along this region that show that Indian Army is enhancing its drills, its movements, and it is practicing on the ground to stay fit, to stay strong with new endurance drills, especially for the soldiers who have to guard the borders, protect the borders, and defeat the enemy in these weather conditions. So while we are reporting from one of the toughest terrains of the world, and Indian Army soldiers are there standing tall, we'll keep getting you the first pictures from this area, especially where the alert is on after the 9th December's clash.
Extreme weather, treacherous terrain, snow-capped peaks and frozen waterfalls.
Sangetsar Lake has reached 13,000 feet above the sea level, and as you can see, the weather is changing. Walking in the extreme weather is slightly difficult for the forces. Our forces has been on high alert. Any kind of engagement which is coming out from the Chinese PLA will be countered then and there.
reporting from India-China frontline.
Times Now, as you know, is the only channel which has been reporting first from the ground zero, the Sangetsar Lake, which is barely 10 miles away from the line of actual control, and there's a heavy dominance of the Indian forces which has been seen on the ground.
High altitude and high-powered reportage.
These are the new bunkers which have been constructed. The cemented area is certainly something new which is establishing. These are being used by the armed forces here in India to guard their location.
Beyond Tripati in Tawang. Times Now.